I'm going to start off by saying yes, this is indeed a Fear and Hunger ripoff game. However, it brings a lot of things to the table that make it genuinely interesting to my eyes. Let's start with the few things that I've noticed this game does that completely change the experience of Fear and Hunger. But before we start, let me remind you that YouTube enjoys when people like my videos and share them around. So if you could help me out with a like and maybe a subscription, that'd be really nice. It would also help me know that people enjoy my opinion in games. Yeah, I'll be covering games at some point. But that's it, moving on with the video. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Furries. Well, yeah. Furries or scalies are what you're going to be controlling as your party members as well as fighting against, adding to the list of horrible abominations that will try to destroy you as you go through the game. While there is not a scene of the game that is as horrendous to look at as the scenes of Game Over of Fear and Hunger 1, you will find yourself less threatened by what this can do to you because of the fact that there is no prison guard around the corner. But fear not, because this game's gameplay is not like Fear and Hunger's. You will start the game with your 3 controllable characters. All of them have their skills unlocked right away, as you won't be able to unlock more or change your teammates either. You get these: Alvis, Alexander, and Marna. I'm gonna try my best to explain what these do, since there is a core gameplay to what you are using them for skills more in depth than what Fear and Hunger does, since the skills are needed to be constantly used in the game, as opposed to just being situational or plain just saving them for a big fight. First, we have our strategist and main character, Alvis. He comes with these unique skills that allow him to activate them in the overworld. However, they will be active for a certain amount of steps that the player takes, and if they get into a fight while these abilities are active, then they will have a passive that will help everyone in the fight. Well, sort of. Careful Step will reduce the damage the party takes in the overworld, as well as the following attack they will receive for 50% less damage. This is huge, since turn 1 most enemies will usually remove all your HP in just a few hits, so this is a must. Weak points makes it so that as always, you won't miss your next attack. Plus, it will come with a guaranteed critical strike. You cannot activate this 2 outside of a fight, so knowing when to have them on is very important. I'll rapidly speak about these other skills, but they are not amazing per se. Keep Distance, defense animation for 3 turns at the cost of damage. Blind, enemies will have less accuracy for 3 turns. Concentration, attack, defense, and agility for 3 turns. And Mark by Materialization, which I will explain later. They're all great skills, especially the blinding one, since enemies hit like a truck, and having less chance of being hit by physical attacks is very important, but not that engaging. One of the most important things to know about these skills is that, once activated, the character will randomly attack a random limb of the enemy, so they are not a wasted turn if you use them, since they will always track a random body part, which if you come from Fear and Hunger, it's bad. However, if you are new to this, it's very good. Enemies in this game don't always go down with striking the head and destroying them. It's mostly having to do with dealing enough damage to the torso, but it changes a few times. You can usually risk going torso if you have enough damage. However, the limbs around will always apply some sort of debuff that will remain on you during the fight and on the overworld, like burning, poison, etc. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I explain that and everything else later. Now let's continue with your second controllable character, Alexander. He will be your stunner, or your strongest party member, who will be destroying things around. He's quite a bother to enemies and to you in the story, as he says, due to being such a nuisance that he ends up being rather useful. It comes with 5 active skills and 1 passive skill. Series of blows, attacks 3 random enemy body parts. Grasping, stuns an enemy's body part for 3 turns. Taunt, makes every enemy attack Alexander for 3 turns. Risky, increases attack and defense for 3 turns. Suppression, random attacks that lower enemies' agility. And a unique passive like the one from Alvis, Rifleman. This will be explained later as well. Alexander is one of the best characters in the game, as he's able to shape himself around for a few playstyles that we will be going over throughout this video. Now, the last character, who's called Marna. The support of the team, but also responsible for reviving your character. Actually, before we explain who Marna is, I am guessing this will need an explanation. When a character dies, you end up being able to revive them at any time by touching them in the overworld. This revives them at half of their max HP, making them have a harder time surviving in fights. Marna is one of the few characters who can heal the status effect in the worst way possible. This comes into another unique ability that will be explained later. Marna's abilities are the following: heals a character for 30 HP, and removes bleeding. Slap removes negative effects from all teammates during combat and attacks a random target. Alright, we cannot delay it any further. I have to explain the unique skills. Alvis has marked by Materialization. This skill allows you to collect invisible items that will be used for changing how you will play through the game. Accessories that will completely change your stats and how your characters play, either reducing their max HP, max mana, making it so that they can be affected by certain elements, increasing their damage at the cost of HP. There's quite a lot of stuff here, and these are very strong and will completely change, like I said, how you make your party. These are invisible for early game, but you will get a few tools that will allow you to see them after mid game. Alvis is the key to character customization because of these items, as they are everywhere and it will always be needed for the player to find these. They are hard to find, but also amazing to use. Alvis can equip 4 of these matter, and the other 2 can only equip 2, so Alvis will be the best at customizing themselves. Moving into Alexander, we have to explain the usage of his unique skill. Each character can use guns, and they have their own keybind to be able to shoot. Either from Marna, Alvis, or Alexander you have a different bind. The bullets will always go ahead of the first controllable character. The ammo is scarce at times, but you're able to craft whichever you want depending on the loot you find, which loot is static, but if you know where your stuff is, you can easily speedrun this game. Rifleman, being the unique ability of Alexander, allows him to fire his gun twice as fast as others, making it so that he's able to be the one who carries the big guns, or the one who is strong enough to destroy anyone. Gunplay works weirdly. Sometimes you can shoot an enemy 8 times and remove them, other times you shoot them 7 times, then get into a fight to remove them in just a single shot. And maybe at times you shoot them 7 times and then get into a fight and you notice the torso is not being damaged. While some can 2-tap most enemies and bosses. So yeah, guns are their own thing, though pretty weak in combat. And Marna, the most controversial, unique skills that honestly make me feel so bothered to even review this game. But I swear it's a decent game, I swear. Female is a unique skill for Marna. Because she's a lady, she can't be stunned with an attack to the groin. I cannot stress enough how important it is to not be stunned, but this is not how you make a character unable to be stunned. This is so dumb, but please ignore it. I say please. Alright, the 2 unique important skills that allow a full restoration of a character once you revive them by touching them. Injury treatment allows characters to be healed by using a surgical kit. You will need to either craft one or find it, and if you run out of them, you will not have max HP. If this wasn't enough, there's a status effect that can only be healed by another skill of Marna, Sailing Transfusion, which you need to use it when a character runs out of mana. When they are affected by a status effect, they will do less damage. Having enough mana with Marna is important since dying is gonna happen a lot. And why is dying something common here? Alright, I have to explain why I used to hate this game and why you will hate it first. There's a few things that will cause your demise in the game. Of course, the most important one is that once you find yourself in a fight, you cannot run away. You hear me right. Once you get into a fight with your 3 people party hitbox, you will not be able to run away. You're forced to take on the fight from start to finish. So any non-preparation that you have before a fight will kick you in the ass. Believe me that I've died and hated a lot of this game because of this feature. I do not know why you're forced to fight, and yeah, you could be like, oh, I'll just ignore them, dodge them. However, when corners are like this, enemies move this fast and you have 3 times the hitbox, as well as that enemies can become objects like prop hunt, you will die to this because of not being prepared. So just be prepared to fight everything, right? Well, that's where you're wrong. Every single time you're in the overworld, you're constantly losing HP and mind because of how the game is made. Oh my god. The materialization effect does damage to the character as they just exist. Not only this, but there are these places filled with gas that you can barely see, or floor tiles that have bubbles barely able to be seen if you're running, forcing you to walk and take the game slow as possible, as they can destroy your HP, mind, poison you, and apply so many status effects. The game will destroy you, and you will have to always be reacting to what's going on. You will hate this feature. Plus, one of the most important things to this game, if you are actually going for fights, is to balance your agility, so you can always attack before the enemy. Being slower than them will just make things impossible. There's so much wrong with this game, but here's the right things it nailed for me, that I feel like it deserves a review. Here I go trying to defend it. Each fight that you take is a fight that you don't want to take. You all want to be able to know what an enemy does. And while I was going to cover Marna's autopsy skill, which is a unique skill that has too much sex for my interest, if you know what a monster does with each limb, you will be able to parry most of their attacks, either destroying them with shooting them and defeating them in the overworld, which takes skill, or knowing an enemy has a stun and being able to have Marna slow enough to heal your fast character from being stunned, since your ally will go first. Then the enemy stunned, then Marna will heal any ailments. Marna being immune to being stunned will allow herself to do this anytime. Stuff like this is fun, and scenarios where you counter a thing that could potentially happen, figuring out how to cancel the most damage when the game is not fair at all. While the creator of this game says that this game is easier than Fear and Hunger, which it is, but it still takes a lot of dedication of a player to go through, since there's a lot of moments in the game where you won't want to keep going because of X or Y thing. But know this, breaking this game and figuring out combinations with matter and equipment that makes this game one of the easiest games ever, after struggling so much, it feels really good. I don't know what it is with this game, you just have to experience it. It took me 20 hours to beat the first time, and then for my second playthrough, I spent 5 hours to finish it. So it is not a long game, it just requires a lot of knowledge. Materialization of Memories is my sequel. However, the developer says they haven't gotten enough sales to justify that they would be making a follow-up. Plus, I didn't want to mention this, but this game was made during Russia and Ukraine. Yeah, they're not doing well. Any kind of help that I can offer to the developer to allow them to feel better will brighten up my day. Even if I didn't love this game at first, it certainly grew on me, and I gotta say, if you can get past the characters, the bad English, the difficult combat, and the annoying things, this could be a gem for you. And you know what's the best thing ever? There's only one puzzle, and I already covered it on Steam. So buy Materialization of Memories and beat it so you can support the developer. This has been Raccoon, and I hope you enjoyed my game review. Be sure to like the video and subscribe and share it with your friends. If you know of another indie game that you want me to check out, please make sure to leave it in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching the video. See you soon.